Hello and welcome to the Crystal Palace podcast. I'm Alfonso Greenbrook and today in Pod 6 I'll be looking at a result over Blackpool in the EFL Cup by bringing you my match review, player rankings and my man of match. As well as this, I'm also going to bring you an exclusive interview with Alan Pardew and Martin Kelly after the game. So let's begin. Christian Benteke made his Crystal Palace debut as an own goal and a Connor Wickham strike helped the Eagles into the third round of the EFL Cup at the expense of Blackpool. The club record signing looked sharp on his first outing in red and blue and came close on a few occasions to marking his debut by getting on the scoresheet, but it was a Scott Dann BLAST that hit Robertson that broke the deadlock on 25 minutes before Wickham netted 90 seconds after replacing Benteke at half-time as a substitution. All eyes were on Benteke, and he gave the Palace fans a first glimpse of why he commanded such a large transfer fee just a minute into the tie when he towered above Blackpool's defence and headed a Martin Kelly cross goalwards, but he could only guide it straight at Sam Sullock. Playing against his former club, Jason Punchman was next to worry the Seasiders goalkeeper, and he fizzed a hard blast just wide on 11 minutes, but midway through the first half the dominant hosts got themselves in front. Andrew Townsend jinked on the left flank before picking up an unmarked Scott Dann at the back post, and his hard volley across the face of goal struck Robertson and diverted the ball post Sullock. However, they almost guaranteed it a couple of minutes later when Armisen Galladin forced his way into the area and squeezed the ball across the face of goal, where Jim Allister was waiting to tuck it in, but James McArthur was well positioned to scramble the ball off his goal line and protect the advantage. Needing a second to calm the nerves, Palace attacked again through Townsend, and he played another pinpoint pass into the feet of McArthur inside the area. But the Scot couldn't quite be a hero at both ends, as he forced Sullock into a good stop, with Benteke's eyes lighting up at a chance of a debut goal on the rebound, but he rolled the ball into the side netting. 2 minutes before the break, he then rippled it again when he was found by a lovely Johan Kabay ball, but he scuffed it wide as an encouraging first 45 minutes in an Eagles shirt came to an end, as he was replaced by Connor Wickham at the break. And just 90 seconds after the restart, he got himself on the scoresheet, punched and stole the ball of Robertson on the right, and placed a low cross into the front post where Wickham was waiting there to lash it past Sullock and score his first competitive goal at Sellers Park. As well as Benteke and James Tompkins, Steve Mandanda was also making his first start for the Eagles, but it was a fairly quiet evening for the Frenchman, who saved comfortably from Brad Pollock's in the first half and then caught a tame Gullit header on 58 minutes as the Seasiders tried to keep their cup dream alive. But Alan Pardew's men kept the pressure, and Sullock did well to push away a Townsend free kick on 70 minutes as he went searching for his first Eagles goal, and Puncheon attempted to net a spectacular strike from 30 yards but watched it sail well over the bar. The chances kept coming for Palace, and Wilfried Zaha saw a blasted block by the Blackpool keeper before Townsend saw a low curling from the edge of the box whistle past the back far post, and the winger nearly put the cherry on the top of the cake for his side when he was fractions away from getting on the scoresheet, but saw his strike thud off the crossbar in the dying stages. Now for some statistics from the game. Possession 73% Palace, 27 Blackpool. Assists 1 Crystal Palace, 0 Blackpool. Corners 5 Crystal Palace, 3 Blackpool. Offsides none for either team. Shots, goals 2 for Crystal Palace, none for Blackpool. Shots 23 for Crystal Palace, 6 for Blackpool. Shots on target 9 for Crystal Palace, 4 for Blackpool. Shots off target 14 for Crystal Palace, 2 for Blackpool. Fouls 12 fouls for Crystal Palace and 6 for Blackpool. There were no yellow cards and no red cards in the game. So now you've heard the match report and also some statistics from the game against Blackpool. I'm now going to move on to the bog standard part of the podcast where I go through the player rankings and I rate each of the players out of 10 for their performances. And I do say this every week, but if any of you do have a different opinion to me or just want to comment something about the game, then do, obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, do comment on the video there. But also you can follow us across social media on Twitter and Facebook at eCrystalPalace. So you can post stuff on there, you can contact us on there. But also, if you are on Facebook, do check out the Facebook group so you can join in with conversations, read the latest news, and also you can post your own opinion on that as well, on your own post. But, enough of that. Like I said, if you do want to contact us, Twitter and Facebook's the way to go, at eCrystalPalace. But enough of that. Now to move on to the player rankings for the game against Blackpool. Starting off with Steve Mandanda in goal. So I'm going to give him a 7. Commanding and won over the Palace fans well. So obviously Steve Mandanda, he was his debut for the club. And what a debut you can say, because he kept a clean sheet. So that's what you expect of a goalkeeper, to try and keep a clean sheet. And Steve obviously done that very well. Like I said, he was very commanding, considering there was apparently a language barrier between him and the other players. And also, like I said, I just chanted his name. He won over the Palace fans very well, because whenever he got a touch, he was, everyone was cheering his name. And I think the reason for that is, yes, he made some decent saves and kept a clean sheet, but also his distribution was very well. So whenever he got the ball, instead of him, perhaps waiting to take a goal kick, he would pick it up and do a really long throw past the halfway line to one of the wingers to set up a counter-attack. So that's another thing we really like about Steve Mandanda. And, I think, having seen him now, I think he's definitely going to be the first choice goalkeeper in the league, because he's made some crucial saves in that game, crucial catches, and also his distribution as well is fantastic. And that's what won Leicester the league last year, was fast counter-attacks which were started by good distribution from the goalkeeper. So if Mandanda, as his name is, if he can keep this up, he will cement his spot in the first team. Martin Kelly, and I am going to give him a 7. Got in a great cross for Benteke, but didn't have a hard night. So obviously Martin Kelly came in for Ward, obviously trying to do a rotation squad for the Cup, and he didn't really have to do much in the game. But admittedly, when he did have to do stuff, as in tracking back defending, he done that very well, and that just resulted in us not being under pressure defensively for most of the game. But like I said at the beginning there, he put in a decent cross with Benteke. His crossing's pretty good from Kelly, but that one cross with Benteke was really good, and it was just unlucky that the keeper was where he was, because it was a really good header from Benteke, but obviously it was straight at the keeper. But if we can get more crosses in from Kelly, certainly he's going to be knocking on the door for a first team place, because if you can supply crosses like that can score us goals, it's a good thing. But like I said, he didn't really have a hard night, because there was no really pressure on him to do anything. But you know what, the reason I've given him a 7 is because he done what we expected of him. So obviously whether it be in the Premier League, swapping with Ward, we don't know yet, but I think at the moment, based on this performance, he'll probably be knocking on the door. I think Ward is a more favoured person by Pardew, and will probably stay in the team for longer. But certainly, if Martin Kelly can keep up this standard of which he does, as in crossing and defending, he'll certainly be getting into the squad soon enough. Now to move on to the fellow fullback, Papa Soare, I'm going to give him a 7. Maybe we should have got forward more, but had a solid game in all. So obviously Papa Soare, we all know him for being an attacking player, but in this game, he didn't really show his attacking threats, which is alright, because every so often, as a defender, you've got to try and have a defensive game. But it would have been nice to see him go forward a bit more and put in more crosses, like Kelly done, because we probably might have got a few more goals, because we know how good Papa Soare's crosses are, and if he had got a few more crosses into the area, we might have been able to get a few more opportunities. But as a defender, you want him to defend, and he done that well. So I'm not criticising him for that, and that's why I've given him a 7. Same as Kelly, didn't really have to do much, but went back and defended when he needed to. But one thing to pick out from him, we all know he can do very good attacking things, and he has to learn how to balance attacking and defending. But in this game, where there wasn't really a lot of pressure on defending, he probably should have tried to go forward a bit more. But other than that, a pretty good performance from Papa Soare defensively and slightly offensively, but well-deserved 7 for him. Now for the captain, Scott Dann, and I am going to give him a 7. Scored Palace's opener, and that is debatable because it is apparently an own goal, but BBC Sports have put it down as a goal for him, and it's on his record as being our top goal scorer at the minute. And yeah, it's debatable whether he scored it or not because the player couldn't really do much because he blasted it at him. But whatever, we'll say it's a Scott Dann goal because it was a very well taken goal. But whether it was or not, you know, the fact that he blasted the ball across the face of goal was fantastic. But he was organised and never really troubled, and it was really a comfortable evening for him. So obviously Scott Dann captained the side. He kept everyone organised, kept everyone shaped, commanded everyone, and he done that with ease, and that's why it was a comfortable evening for him. Obviously, debatably scored the winner. Obviously, Townsend on the left-hand side whipped in a lovely cross into the back post where Scott Dann was there. Scott Dann blasted it across the face of goal, and it went in. It did deflect off a player, whether you can give that as an own goal or not, because the player couldn't really have done anything about it. But you know what? The fact that we players linking up together is fantastic, and the fact that we've got a defender who's got a very powerful shot on him. But, you know, he was never really troubled defensively, same as all the defenders. And overall, was a very comfortable evening for the captain, who put in solid performance with good tackles, good blocks, and also a good attacking threat. Now to move on to his fellow centre-back, and also his first team or first starting debut, and that is James Tomkins. And I'm going to give him a 6. An easy home debut, but a confident boost. So really similar to Dan, he was very organised, he was never really troubled, and he had a very comfortable evening. And the thing with James Tomkins, other than Scott Dann, is he's better offensively. So James Tomkins can play as a fullback, and you see that in his centre-back role, in the fact that he tries to get forward as much as possible, try and dribble past players, and he done that very well. Yes, there wasn't really much threat from Blackpool, but the fact that he was able to find spaces and get forward is what we want of a player with his ability. And yes, it was slightly easy debut for him. There wasn't really a lot of pressure on him to perform. But it did show glimpses of why Palace did pay what they did for him, because he's showing how good of a defender he is. And I think, although he probably won't start for a few weeks in the Premier League, I certainly think it's a confidence boost for him. Having seen the Palace fans and having played at Sellers, I think it will help build his confidence and hopefully build him into a better player going forward. But like I said, like Dan, never troubled, organised, defensively, making tackles, making blocks, an all-round good performance from him. Now to move on to Yohan Cabaye, and I am going to give him a 6. Further game time as he steps up to match fitness. So Yohan Cabaye, you know, he didn't have the best performance for him, and that's not saying in a bad way. He had a pretty average performance from him, but like I said there, it's probably him getting up to match fitness. And yes, it wasn't a bad performance from him, it was quite an average one. And I don't know, it's very hard to explain his performance because he had some very good glimpses of his best abilities, and also he sort of fell out the game at times. So it's very hard to think of a word to describe him. But he is on the man of the match shortlist, and that's because I identified a few things he done throughout the game. And obviously, as he was playing a defensive midfielder next to his partner from last season, James McArthur, he played very well with him. And what they done, you know, every so often, one would go forward more and try and push up, and that was normally Cabaye. He would push up and try and get forward, but also him and McArthur were doing a very good defensive job by Cabaye, you know, coming back, defending, making tackles, making blocks, etc. But also one of the things Cabaye did was he found a few decent crosses into the area throughout the game, which did supply the chances. And that's what you want of a defensive midfielder. You don't want someone who just defends. You want someone to find pockets of space, try and find crosses, and Cabaye done that with ease. But I think this was one of the games for him to prove himself, which he has, obviously, but to prove himself as in match fitness, and obviously that has seen him play in the game against Blackpool. So yeah, in the game at the weekend, he'll probably play against Bournemouth because he's shown he's probably nearly 90% fit now. So hopefully he'll start there. But you know, all in all, a very good performance for Yohan Cabaye, very good defensive and offensive performance from him. Now to move on to his partner, and that is James McArthur. And I'm going to give James McArthur a 7. Great to see him back. Anchored the midfield with ease. So, you know, similar to Cabaye, they were both doing defensive roles. So McArthur was putting in a shift, running everywhere, making blocks, making lovely tackles, spins and turns, trying to find pockets of space. And he done that very well. And like it said here, a word to describe it is anchored, because he was sort of the guy in the middle of the field who was supplying everyone, linking the defence with the attack, and he'd done that very well. And we saw that with his tackles he made, his blocks he made to try and get the ball out, and also when he went forward a few times, he would do a sort of twist and turn to get past players and to pass the ball. So, like I said, it was great to see him back in a Palace shirt. We've just seen what he can do. His work rate was amazing, 110% if anything, and he just bossed the midfield with an ease, defensively and offensively. Now to move on to Jason Puncheon, and I'm going to give this is one of the debatable ones which I want you to comment on, either on Facebook, Twitter, or also on the YouTube video. But I am going to give Puncheon a 7. Excellent cross for Wickham's goal. He faded in the second half. So Puncheon had one of these games again where he sort of faded in and out of it. But he did show glimpses of what he can do when he supplied Wickham with that wonderful cross. Obviously, ran down the right hand side, closing down the player. The player sort of, I can't remember, he got lost, let's say. He got lost. He got a bit under pressure, that's the word. He got a bit under pressure from Puncheon. He lost possession of the ball. Puncheon got it. He blasted it across the face of the goal. And obviously for Wickham to score that. So, he did provide important crosses throughout the game, important passes. But overall, he sort of got missing throughout the game. And the reason he's got a 7 is because when he had his opportunities, he took them well. But there were other opportunities where, yes, nothing probably wouldn't have come out of it because there was a lot of pressure from Blackpool players, but he could have tried to do something better, better than he did. And the thing to note about his performance is the fact that he gave away possession quite a lot. And I think that's something we need to work with Puncheon, is if he is going to be playing on the wing or down the middle especially, you've got to be able to hold possession, because especially if he's playing down the middle, you're meant to be supplying the striker. So if you lose possession, you're not really going to be doing the job well. But all in all, excellent cross for Wickham's goal, which resulted in a good performance from him. Did fade throughout the game, but did show glimpses of why he's in the Palace team. Now to move on to another midfielder in Jordan Much, and I'm going to give Jordan Much a 6. An ideal game for him to show what he can do, but didn't do a lot. So Jordan Much, he was on the pitch for most of the game, but didn't really have much of an impact on the game. And I think that's the reason I think the match game, or the plan for the game, was on the pressure on Christian Benteke, Andros Townsend, and Cabaye, and possibly Puncheon to a bit to be the attacking people in the game. So I think Jordan Much didn't really get the opportunity to play forward as much as he would have liked to, as in pre-season. But it was the perfect game for him to show what he could do. But I think the game plan stopped him from doing that because he was restrained from getting forward. But in saying that, defensively, he would communicate very well with MacArthur. So if he had to go back, he would go back and defend. Very good at making tackles, and also he's quite fast, admittedly. So sometimes if he's running at players, he gets the possession of them and would run further away, try and find passes. So he done that very well in the fact that he was able to do that, obviously finding the passes. And that's what you expect of a midfielder, because really he's more of a centre mid. So he's neither defensive or attacking, so he can settle into both roles. But he showed glimpses of both roles he can do against Blackpool, because he's done a defensive role by tackling and blocking, but also done an offensive role by using his pace to get past players and to find a pass. Now to move on to Andros Townsend, who I'm going to give a 7. Neat and tidy, but perhaps you would have expected more from him. Went close range in the second half. So obviously a very nice performance from Andros Townsend. We know what to expect from him now, and we're getting sort of the bog standard 6s and 7s every week from him, because he's putting in good shifts. But, like I said, neat and tidy. He didn't make hardly any mistakes. But one thing for him is he needs to stop going for glory. So on a few occasions, a little pass would have been sufficed. But instead of giving a simple pass, he would try and have a shot from 20 yards, which admittedly, most of them are on target and either go off the bar or get saved by the keeper. But sometimes you just got to find that little pass to do it. And that's the thing to note about his game, is the fact that sometimes he's a bit, trying to go for glory. So I think all in all, to improve his gameplay, to become a better player, if Townsend would stop when he's going forward and look for the pass rather than having the shot, would probably score more. And in saying that, yes, it's not bad that he's trying to have a shot from 20 yards and then most of them are on target. The fact is, we want to see him, if he is going to do that, he's got to try and divert it away from the keeper so it's got more chance of going in. But in saying that, one of his shots was absolutely amazing. You know, Zaha got fouled on the edge of the area, and it was no foul, obviously, but he did get pushed to the ground. The ball rolled to Andros Townsend. He hit it with his right foot, and it just went off the crossbar. So he's showing what he can do, you know, the fact that getting the ball on target. But I think, personally, looking at it, he's got the pace, he's got the crossing ability. Just use it sometimes, so, you know, run down to the byline and put in a cross. Because I'm sure Christian Benteke would love to get on the end of one of his crosses, because, admittedly, he's probably the best crosser in the team, because his crosses are absolutely divine. But you know what? We got what we expected from Townsend. He didn't make any mistakes. And like I said, one way to describe it really is neat and tidy, no mistakes, put in a shift, and done very well for the team. Now for the record signing of Christian Benteke, and I am going to give him a 6. Let him settle in, chased defenders down and got into good positions, but missed a sitter from close range that he would normally have buried. So obviously, like I said, let him settle in. I think that's a good thing to start off with him, because it's his first game. He only signed a few days before, so you couldn't have expected him to be the man of the match, because, you know, he's still settling into the team, trying to get into the game system. So you wouldn't expect him to settle in straight away. But, you know, he did do that very well. And we saw that in the fact that he would chase down defenders very well. He was able to use his pace. And sometimes it was almost like we were playing a false 9 formation, because he would normally come back, and when the wingers, obviously Puncheon and Andros Townsend at the time, they would go forward, putting the crosses in, and he would be able to run onto them, which was very good. And also, he got into very good positions. So obviously, like I said, when he was chasing defenders down, he was also putting himself in a good position, which meant that when crosses came in, he was able to get his head on them. And most of the crosses, I'm not going to say all of them, but the majority of the crosses that came into the area, he put his head on it, and they either went wide, got saved by the keeper. But, you know, he did have one very good one in the first half. Kelly whipped it into the area, he headed it in, and it got saved by the keeper. So he's showing his very good heading ability. But, you know, he did miss a sitter from quite close range, obviously. James McCarver had a shot from just inside the area, got saved, deflected off the keeper. He had a shot, but if you look back at the replay, he had like a second to do it, and he sort of hit the ball mid-bounce. So it was already sort of curling away. So when he hit it, he put a lot of power on it, and it just hit the side netting. So you couldn't, you know, maybe you could have said he should have scored the sitter. But admittedly, the way the ball was and the angle he was at, it probably would have been very difficult for him. But certainly, the fact that he took his opportunities, as in the heading ones, he chased down defenders and got into good positions, meant all in all, it was a very good performance from him. And hopefully he can score a goal, kick on this season, and hopefully we can see why we paid 27 million for him. But now to move on to these substitutions, obviously Connor Wickham, Chung Lee and Wilfried Zaha. So Connor Wickham didn't take him long to score a brilliant finish, and that's a 7 for him. Lee Ching-young, bright, energetic, nearly assisted Wickham for a goal. And Wilfried Zaha took on players and looked to get crosses in, had a shot beaten away. So all of these players I'm probably going to give a 7, because all three of them put in good performances. Obviously Connor Wickham, he came on the pitch, 90 seconds later he scored. So if you're talking about an impact sub, that is a clear example of an impact sub there. Obviously, lovely cross from Puncheon, but he stayed composed when the ball came into him. And rather, you know, hitting the ball above, he, like I said, kept composed and had a lovely shot right into the top right-hand corner. So very good there. And all in all, it was a brilliant finish from him, you know, and a brilliant game all in all. You know, like Benteke, he was able to chase defenders down very well. He got into good positions throughout the game, and he had a few other opportunities throughout the game. But, you know, Connor Wickham, we know what to expect from him, and he done that well. He came off the bench, done a job. All in all, you know, fantastic from him. Obviously, Chung Lee, bright, energetic, and nearly assisted Wickham for the goal. And that basically explains it. I don't think there is anything else to say. You know, you want a substitution to come on so they can brighten up the game, add oomph to the game, and Lee Chung-young done that. He was energetic, added a bit more pace to the game, a bit more enthusiasm, let's say. And also, nearly, talking about Connor Wickham almost scoring a few more goals, Chung Lee almost provided him in the game with a goal. So we're seeing some very good stuff from Chung Lee, and hopefully he can kick on this season and get some more game time under his belt. And obviously, to move on to the final substitution, and that is Wilfried Zaha. Obviously, as you expect from a winger, he was able to run past players using his speed. He took on the players, and also, like Martin Kelly in the game and Andros Townsend, he looked to get crosses in. He got a few decent crosses in the game, and if you're going to talk about impact sub, he probably was, because he added his pace, added a bit more energy to the game, meant it was a bit more fast paced, and we saw that in the fact that the fast pace, he was able to run down the wings, get the crosses in. So, a pretty decent performance from him, a very good one from him coming off the bench. And, he did have a shot beaten away, and that was, obviously, he's had a shot from, I think it was inside the box, looking back at it now. Obviously saved by the keeper. Their keeper, Blackpool keeper, had a very good game. But you know what? He had the shot beaten away, but at least he took this chance. And I said this a few weeks ago in the podcast, is that Wilfried Zaha sometimes, yes, he tries to offload the ball and get past the ball to get the assist. But sometimes I think that he needs to have more confidence in himself to take these opportunities. And obviously in this case, he listened to my advice. He had the shot. It got beaten away. But, the fact that he had that opportunity was great. But all in all, from all of the team, really, it was a good, energetic performance from everyone. Everyone put in their best effort into this game. And it was a bright and energetic game. Now to move on to the Man of the Match award, but before I do that and give you my Man of the Match, I'm going to give the results of my Twitter poll. But the 4 candidates for this week Man of the Match award against Blackpool were Scott Dann, James McArthur, Yohan Cabaye and Connor Wickham. So now to begin with the Twitter poll, and obviously if you didn't know, the Twitter poll is not ran by Crystal Palace, it is run by my own personal account at the CPC Podcast on Twitter. And on there, obviously I post news and all of that, but I also do weekly polls where you can vote for your Man of the Match. And obviously I've done the one for the Blackpool game. So starting in 4th place with 5% of the votes was Connor Wickham. In 3rd place with 14% of the votes was Scott Dann. In 2nd place and runner-up in this week's Man of the Match award is Yohan Cabaye with 28% of the votes, which means with 53% of the votes and winner of the CPC Podcast and Crystal Palace Man of the Match for the game against Blackpool is James McArthur. So congratulations, James McArthur, you got over half the votes, so well done there. But like I said, you put in a very solid performance, but you don't get a certificate or trophy, but you do get my sincere congratulations on what was a very solid performance from you. But now I'm going to go on and talk just a bit about each of the 4 players on there, and then give you my overall Man of the Match. But looking at the players here, obviously Scott Dann, he controversially scored the goal. Obviously, you could say he scored it, or you could say it was an own goal. Whatever way you look at it, that was a very good shot he put into the goal, or a very good cross he put into the area. And also, defensively, we kept a clean sheet, so you've got to credit him for that, because as a defender, he put in some crucial blocks and also crosses as well into the area. So all in all, a very good defensive performance from him. And as the captain, he commanded the side well, which meant that the team was very well organised. Obviously, James McArthur won the Twitter poll, but like I said in the player rankings, he's come back from injury, but he showed glimpses of getting back to full fitness. He put in a very solid performance defensively, putting in some lovely tackles, lovely blocks, etc. What you would expect of a defensive midfielder. But also he got forward on a few occasions, found passes, was able to link up well with the attack and the defence. And overall, without or getting rid of the fact that he linked up well with them, he also linked them up. So he was able to get a ball from the defence and pass it to the attacker. So he was the middleman, let's say, in supplying both the attack and the defence. So good performance from him. Yohan Cabaye, fellow partner to James McArthur, not really anything else to say, because it was a very similar performance to the one from James McArthur. Obviously, he put in a lovely shift, getting back to full fitness. He made some lovely tackles, lovely blocks, got back defensively as well, had a few shots, went wide. Also, like James McArthur, linked up well with the defensive midfield in the fact that he was very good defensive job. But out of them two, Yohan Cabaye went forward more, and he was able to link up well with the wingers and also the central attacking midfielders. So all in all, a good defensive performance from him. And then to move on to Connor Wickham, and the one word I am going to use, or the few words I'm going to use, is impact sub, and that's what he was, and that's why he's on the list. Because if you get a striker or you get someone on the pitch to make an impact and they score, surely that's paid off because their impact was imminent. And that's the one reason why he's on here. Yes, he put in some decent crosses into the area as well, where he drifted out wide. He was able to get his head on a few of the crosses coming in and also have a few shots on goal. He did mainly, he did score the goal, which, make sure we buried the game. So that's why he's on the list. And to be honest, it was a very good strike from Wickham, because obviously Puncheon put in a very fast ball from the right-hand side, and he had to keep himself composed, and obviously he scored. And the thing is, it was in the right top corner, so he was obviously very composed in himself, and that's one of the reasons why I put him on there. But for me personally, out of all of these players, I'm probably going to give it to Scott Dann. So congratulations to Scott Dann. You've won my own personal preference for the Man of the Match award. Unlike the Twitter poll, you don't get a certificate or a trophy, but you do get my sincere congratulations on what was a solid performance from you, defensively and offensively, because he scored the goal, let's say, for us. Obviously, got that decent cross, or put in. I say it's his goal. He blasted it across the face of goal and it went in. So let's say he assisted the own goal, but also as the captain, he commanded the side well, made sure everyone knew what they were doing. And I think that's one of the reasons why we dominated the game. And the fact that we had like 63% possession is the fact that Scott Dann made sure everyone knew what they were doing. And ultimately, that's why he's won the Man of the Match award, because he's one of the crucial players in the game that made sure everyone knew what they were doing. But, you know, as a defender, he put in a solid shift, and that's probably the main reason why I've given it to him. The fact that we kept a clean sheet, and the fact that he was at the heart of the defence of that. But obviously, now you've heard my match report, player rankings, and my man of the match. That concludes this week's podcast. Now I've got an exclusive interview with Alan Pardew and Martin Kelly following the game.
Did that feel like more than just a routine win, given that it followed 2 defeats?
Well, our league form last year has come under a lot of criticism, but we still finished 14th, 15th, whatever. But we were a great cup team last year in both competitions, and we want to be again. And that was highlighted by the strength of the team I picked tonight. So we're through, no injuries, and a few good debuts I thought today. Christian, 45 minutes, which I thought he showed flashes of why we've spent a record sum on him. And our goalie showed everybody why he was captain of Marseille and such a legend there. He's got a great personality. Looks like our fans have taken to him straight away. But more importantly, perhaps, was some of our players from last year we missed were significant tonight. Cabaye and MacArthur were outstanding in the middle of the pitch. Tompkins had a great debut as well. And no injuries. So I couldn't have asked for anything more, really, than tonight.
Was it always a plan to take Benteke off at half-time?
Yeah, it was. He hasn't had a lot of match action. He looks fit. He looks really good, actually. But of course, you know, we was on the side of caution with him tonight.
Will he start on Saturday, do you know?
I have to, you know, chew this result and have a little look at what was available and then go from there. And
Wickham came on, scored quite a nice goal. Do you think that was him responding to the threat posed by Benteke to his place? Well,
I think that's a good point. I don't think it was him responding. I think it was just like a weight had been lifted from him. Great responsibility when you're the only striker we're carrying at the moment. Obviously, Fraser's injured, and there was a lot of pressure on him, I thought, in the first couple of games, which it was difficult for him in the tough games. But tonight, Christian's arrival was taking a bit of weight off him. You could see that. He was fresher, sharper, and looked all the better for it. He's a good player, Connor. We got no problem with him. And just the arrival is gonna boost him.
Obviously, when a new big player joins a club, can you notice that immediate reaction in the dressing room?
Of course, but we know in the first 2 games that we've been missing key players. MacArthur and Cabaye in particular, a big part of our success last year, the first half of it. Nice to see them back. I thought Papa Soiree had his best game of the season so far, and he needed that confidence. So a good night for us. I'm pleased that we've come through it and we can set ourselves up now for what is a big game on Saturday, because me and Eddie need some points for our teams, for our clubs. So we'll be fighting both of them. You know, it will be a really tough game.
And obviously, one more question on Benteke. Can I ask you what you said to him before match? Was this a bit of a free pass for him, see where he's at with his fitness and all?
I didn't give him much information tonight, really, just to follow his instincts a little bit. I want him to get to the level where he was prior to Liverpool. And the reason he never got to that level at Liverpool is he just didn't play enough. He's going to get a flow of games here, and if we can keep him fit, I'm pretty sure he's going to be a real big asset for us.
And obviously you mentioned Bournemouth, even though it's only the third game into the season of the Premier League season, does it already feel like a big game?
Well, it's only you guys really that make it more difficult, but it's still a game we want to win, and you know, we want to just give our fans something to cheer about. And do you know what? If we had a fantastic performance and got a draw, I would take that now. I don't think win's essential, but our performance level is for our home fans, I think.
Early on, the game plan looked like it was sort of get the ball wide, get crosses into Benteke. Was that a deliberate thing, and do you think he will sort of maybe change the way you play?
Well, I think there's a way of playing that you would associate with myself, and that is on the front foot, having a go at teams, and we've not really had the strength attacking wise to do that for long periods. In the second half of last season, I was determined that wasn't going to happen this year. So the arrival of Townsend to keep Wilf, to have Connor, and to have Christian now, and another coming, is going to really enhance our ability to go on the front foot and have the confidence to do that. I think we've been lacking in confidence to have a go at teams, and now I don't see any reason why we shouldn't.
Alan, you've got a lot of good performances all around the team there this evening, so a bit of a headache for you for who your starting 11 might be on Saturday.
Thank goodness, eh?
A nice headache to have, but
no,
you're not going to tell us who your thoughts are tending toward.
I'm not going to divulge my thoughts because
there's a goalkeeping situation as well. Two good goalkeepers now as well.
This is the Premier League. This is
yes.
where it's going. You know, the extra finance that has been delivered for all the clubs means we're all getting stronger. And we've noticed that we thought Spurs were stronger than last year. And we probably wasn't as strong as we was last year when we played them, but we had a lot of key players missing, and when we get our best players back and we get into a rhythm, we're going to be a lot stronger too.
And you did say after the West Brom game that might be yet another player to join the squad before the end of the month. Are you still hoping that might be the case?
Yes.
Thank you.
Martin, into the next round of the Cup, and plenty of positives to take from tonight.
Yeah, I think you know, we addressed the game well, and we can take positives out of tonight. It was, you know, a couple of great debuts, and as a team we was in control of the game, and we got quite an early-ish goal and an early goal second half, so it was good to get through the round and see who we get next in the Cup. Yeah.
And for you personally, how did you feel out there tonight?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I played a lot of games pre-season centre half, so to adjust back to right back was it's a little bit tiring. But in terms of, you know, putting balls in the box for Christian and your sign, it was good. So I could take positives myself out of the game tonight, and you know, hopefully going forward as a team, we've got Christian up there who's going to be a great plus for the side, as well as Connor, who's already there, and a handful for the opposition. With them two up front as a defender, you don't really want to be marking them to.
That's not a gunshot. And Steve Mondonda playing behind you today. Fans already love him by the sounds of it.
Yeah, he was. I think Steve as well. Sorry, another debut tonight. He played really well and showed that he can play with his feet. He was playing like a, you know, sort of sweeper tonight. He was good with both feet, playing the ball out well. It was, you know, a good debut for them to have. It wasn't a tough game, but it was a game that we knew we needed to win at home.
Do you think with the first two defeats in the first two games, it was important for the manager to play a strong side tonight, just to get back into the groove of winning?
I think if you look back at the last two games, it's been very small margins. It's obviously two set pieces, which is sometimes what can happen in the Premier League. It's a matter of winning or losing. We could have come off with two draws easily them 2 days, or a win for ourselves, but you have to put them two games behind us, and for tonight we knew that we was against a lower league opposition, but we had to play the game as if we were, you know, we needed to win. That was obvious. So we put on a good display tonight.
Thanks, Martin.
So there you have it. Now you've heard what Alan Pardew and Martin Kelly had to say after the game. That concludes this week's podcast for the game against Blackpool. But make sure to come back next week for my post-match review of the game against Bournemouth. So thanks for listening, and remember to up the Palace.